you know, it's the structure leading up is I don't know, because there's a bunch of things going on, which is the network's been slow because retail investors have had their earnings crimped by inflation, so they've had less marginal money to be able to put in. There's the Fed tightening, central banks tightening. So there's a lot going on in this picture right now, which is why these prices have been wide-ranging and sideways. Usually, these big events are a turning point one way or the other. So if you went into it at a high in ETH, much like we went into the ETF or we went into the Coinbase listing. Coinbase listing was the absolute high to the day. Because what you did with the Coinbase listing is you gave people another alternative. So before they were forced into opening Bitcoin accounts, then they didn't have to, so they bought the equity, and you lost billions or tens of billions of dollars of demand. So it depends what happens to ETH 2.0 and where it is. Because if the price is at a high, then all of the people who've been staking are likely to take profits when they can unstake. Now, when they unlock that stake, everybody else in the market knows that there'll be a seller, so you'll force them out at a lower price. It's just how markets work. If we go in at a low, then it's going to be like the Bitcoin halving, where suddenly this triple halving event happens and the price just recovers automatically. It was actually around the previous Bitcoin halving cycles and how long they last for. And previous price charts suggested that around March would be the peak, but that whole pattern fell apart in December. So everybody was expecting the rally. Market loves pain. It chooses to do the opposite for this lack of network growth and a bunch of this other things. So therefore, it kind of suggests that the structure of the halving cycles has changed. And I think that's probably right. And I think the downside will be less. Maybe we're in a bear market, and maybe the bear market is down 30, 40, 50%, as opposed to down 80%, which was the previous ones. Maybe the cycles are shorter. I've looked at Amazon in the past. It used to start with big violent swings, down 95%, then down 80%, down 60%, and then it just did this and just went up. I kind of think that's what network adoption looks like. The more people come onto the network, the less downside there is. Yes, it doesn't spike as high, but the uptrend is stronger and the cycles tend to be shorter. So that's kind of my working hypothesis right now. We'll have to see how it plays out. But I kind of think the cycles are shorter and less steep. Well, so if you think about it, what makes a network really robust is not only investors in it, i.e. token holders, but when people are developing on it, and then you're developing other projects on it that also have investors on top, you're creating network effects. So if you think of ETH in those terms, so there's now demand for the network, which is why ETH is so expensive, gas fees are so expensive, because everybody wants to use ETH. Okay, and then you've got the other phenomena where those expensive gas fees are going to burning ETH. So what you're doing is taking ETH out of supply as well. And that's, I think, the key reason why ETH was up 450% last year and Bitcoin was up 60%. It's to do with the robustness of the network and that burning of tokens and the fact that Bitcoin doesn't have Ethereum, doesn't have NFTs, doesn't have smart contracts, it doesn't have any of this on it. It's got the Lightning layer, but the Lightning layer, basically what it does is batches a bunch of transactions on one blockchain slot. So you're actually not using vast amounts of the network. So I think that's why Ethereum did so well versus Bitcoin. I think NFTs are here to stay. I think we will see a lot of volatility in price because it's really hard to know what project's good and what's not. I think it's also going to morph towards music. I think it's going to morph. I'm seeing one about book publishing where a guy has raised the money to write a book and a screenplay, which will end up being a film. So I think we're going to see all sorts of new applications for the creative industries and other industries coming out of NFTs. And it won't just be the PFP kind of part of it where, you know, everybody's showing that. That was just the early start of this. And some of those projects will get decimated and some will just continue to do well because, you know, people have decided that those have value and you want to be part of that community.
Seen before?
Metaverse, no. So crypto, yes, right. So crypto is the internet back in 1997, had 160 million users and was growing at 63% a year. The digital asset market has about 160 million users and is growing at 113% a year. So it's the fastest growing adoption of any technology in all history. The metaverse itself is slow adoption. So we're not seeing anybody using Sandbox or Decentraland or anything, really. People are still using Fortnite and Roblox and stuff like that. So we're not seeing metaverse per se in terms of those digital worlds. The metaverse of the fact that you and I are in different continents and different countries, but doing this digitally, I mean, that wasn't really easy to do a while ago, but this is part of the metaverse, the digitization of everything that we do. So it is happening all around us. But these digital worlds, we've just seen Apple today announce that it's delaying the release of its AR glasses, which everybody's been waiting for. So we're not there yet. So I think it's speculation and interest, really early stage. But later, in 5 years' time, then we'll be at the teeth of the middle of something much bigger where people are starting to get it and realize, what was Mark Zuckerberg talking about? Hate it or love Meta, it's still going to be one of these metaverse experiences. Tim Sweeney and Epic Games will have started moving further into the space. Brands will have, and there'll be a blending of all of this kind of world, and these NFTs will be movable between different places and usable in different ways. It's all coming, but it's really, 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 really early. They've been moving fast because of Ethereum's expensive or slow versus some of the use cases. And so those have seen network effects as people have come away from using Ethereum. So it's a replacement trade. It's not new money coming into this. So it's just been basically a rotation. When everybody's looking at the rotation to continue, because everyone's now figured out, oh yeah, these layer ones, that's what we need, they don't work anymore. So it moves to the next thing. And whether that's interoperability, whether it's, beating up DeFi because nobody's interested in DeFi anymore, I don't know. All I do know is that when everybody's looking at something, it doesn't happen. So we've started Real Vision India with two people. The ex-head of Goldman Sachs India is actually our chairman. He's another Real Vision fanatic. And somebody from JP Morgan. We've just started, but I'm half Indian, so I'm pretty familiar with the place. And it's a gigantic English-speaking market with massive cryptocurrency adoption. And crypto, it's already a highly digitized economy. So when you go to India, the banking system is entirely digitized. You can send money frictionlessly and costlessly almost everywhere. There's like automated KYC, and it's perfectly set up for this. So both crypto and macro, because India has a growing role within the global economy. And so for me, I realized that a lot of Indians were coming to me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, all over the place, desperate for information. And so we thought, you know what, we should go and do this. So, we've been talking to people like WazirX, who are, one of the largest the largest Indian exchange, and a whole bunch of other people out there to say, okay, how can we help? What can we do? How can we educate people? Let's get them this quality content, because Real Vision has this extraordinary, library of the best content in the world. How can we give it to people in India and get them to understand the opportunities that this is going to create for all of them?
Very interesting. Actually, my first eureka moment for crypto was when I was in India in 2016. I was working for a Swiss bank as a journalist, and I was familiar with crypto. And it was when Modi had actually put a stop on accepting these small banknotes, and it completely halted any merchant sales because people didn't want to trade in banknotes that were valid. There was queues for 6 or 7 hours in each bank, and all the ATMs were out of banknotes. And that was my eureka crypto moment. So I found it really interesting that you were looking to expand that.
Yeah, and that was really interesting when that happened. I saw it immediately. Everyone was so negative, like, this is terrible. I'm like, no, India's about to leapfrog the world because it's about to entirely digitize its banking system. And it proved to be true. I mean, the Indian kind of UPI payment system, India Stack, all of this stuff is incredible. So, that's why I'm really bullish on this whole India thing. They digitize, the US, here in the Cayman Islands, it's an absolute nightmare. We're supposed to be a banking center. We're not. And then it's been walked back. All I do know, and again, I've just interviewed the founder of WazirX on Real Vision yesterday. It'll be out next week or so, is that everybody's talking to the politicians and the civil servants and explaining what this is about. You know, the Indian tech industry's got together and say, listen, you've got to understand what a big opportunity this is for us. So I think India, first was like, whoa, we don't know what you're doing here. And they're going to walk back from it because, don't forget, if you go back 3 years ago, you were banned from using a bank for the crypto industry. So they were unbanked entirely. Then the banking was allowed. Then it was like, we want to ban it. We don't really know. Then it's like, well, maybe we didn't mean it. What's going to happen is they'll regulate it, and they'll regulate it in a way that they're comfortable with, and then the industry can flourish. Because if they don't, they're going to knock India out of this largest industry and the fastest growing industry in the world right now. It would be crazy considering how much advantage India has. Developers, digital money system, all of the things. And I've been alluding this for some time because it's stuff that I'm working on that I can't really talk about, but I think this is the year of social tokens. People don't really yet, I talk about it, people don't really get it. We're seeing Bored Ape start with the ape token. There's some of these, but these are still small scale. We're going to see some gigantic communities tokenize, and we'll see the power of token economics. So that's the big thing that people aren't aware of because they haven't seen it yet. So that's my big prediction for this year. Stick with, I use the logarithmic channel and the upside for Bitcoin. If we get traction again, particularly if we end up with some central bank easing, which I think we will get the last part of the year or allusion to it, I still think Bitcoin can probably do, it could probably do 300% or so this year, and ETH could do more, significantly more again.
ETH could do more. That is really interesting, and I think a lot of people are going to be thrilled with that prediction.